It's Access All Areas. This is Annie Nightingale, and we're accessing all areas with Nick Grimshaw.
Hi, Annie.
Hello, Nick.
How are you?
I'm not bad, thank you. I'm very pleased to see you. Here's a question. If I'm around the middle of the night, which is not uncommon, if it's raining and it's dark and it's 5:30 in the morning, I think, oh, I'm going to bed now.
Yeah.
I think Nick Grimshaw is getting up. Do you ever think, I can't do it, I just want to go back to bed?
It's easier in the summer. Like in the summer, it's actually quite nice to wake up and like to see like the drive into London in the morning when it's not busy and the sun's up is really nice. And we started doing the show at end of September, so it's still light my first morning, and then it just got darker and darker, and then it's horrible for months and months of the year.
What's your, is it fear, terror?
It's the terror of Big Boss Ben Cooper firing us. You kind of just get used to it. You kind of got to do it because it's not like a regular job where maybe people won't find out that you've not turned up. Like everyone will know.
Yeah.
So you just got to do it. There's not really an option. It doesn't work in my brain where I'm like, should I just not go today? I always just like get up and just deal with it.
What about oversleeping? That would be my terrible anxiety. I used to have dreams about coming to Radio 1 and there was no decks, nothing to play anything on.
I have that dream.
I'm not, you don't?
I do. I always have that dream. I always dream like the faders don't work, or like they're like, there's no records, you just got to talk for 3 hours.
Exact same dream.
Yeah, always have it.
Weird.
And you know who else has it? Annie Mac has that dream.
Really?
Yeah, it must be a DJ dream.
I must say, it's an anxiety thing, obviously. It's a kind of inner work as your brain going, I've got to get up. So the other thing to ask you is, how many invites to go to things do you get like every day? Because I mean, there's pictures of you in the papers and magazines all the time, and I know you don't seek it, it just happens because of who you are now. But say in any given evening, how many invites would you have to go out somewhere?
I reckon there's like 2 things a night at least that you could go to. So there's always maybe a gig or a few gigs a night. So there's always the temptation. I try not to go out like Sundays, although the last 2 Sundays I've been to see Prince. So the last 2 Sundays, and then I think, and he don't do a short gig. Sunday nights you shouldn't go out because that ruins it for the week.
Right.
But then by the time it gets to Tuesday, I could go out. Can we play Prince now? Twist Your Arm? I thought we could go for The Beautiful Ones. I think my favourite Prince song. And he actually did this. He didn't do it on the first night I went to see him, but he did do like some classics. And the second night I went to see him, he did do The Beautiful Ones.
So you were happy?
So happy.
Yeah.
Love this song.
You're listening to Annie Nightingale on BBC Radio 1.
I'm going to go and see a band tonight.
Right.
So I can go out tonight, but not every night.
Right.
I think you've got to balance it out, I reckon.
But I mean, you go to a lot of fashion shows as well. You have a very broad spectrum of things you go to, probably film premieres and an awful lot. Is there a lot of pressure to go to things?
With bands, like my friends' bands and like my friends who manage bands are like, come because you're on Radio 1 and you can talk about it. But I don't know, I always think that you can't stay in because then you don't want it to be boring in the morning. Like if I came on and talked about the telly every morning, it'd be boring, wouldn't it? So you've got to go out and you've got to go to these gigs and you've got to, go to the Brits and have a fun night. Because I think if I was listening and I was 15 and Sarah Cox was saying, oh, I stayed in, I didn't go to the Brits, I'd be like,
you feel
why?
let down, yeah.
I'd be like, you should have gone.
All right, now you mentioned the Brits, so there's much rumour that you might take over next year.
Well, it's
Is it going to happen?
I don't. It's literally no one from the Brits has come up to me or ITV.
I think we better have a word then.
I think we need to have a word. We should do it together, Annie. Come on, Annie.
Well, you'll be great though. You're the natural successor.
I hope so. Thank you.
Keep kissing all these blokes.
Yeah, as long as I snog James Corden more. Have you ever been asked to do it?
Not to present it, no. I remember coming back from LA because I'd been nominated for things like Best Female DJ when I was the only one.
Oh, really?
And I still
the
didn't win
nominees
it.
are Annie Nightingale.
Yeah, I didn't win it.
Who won?
I can't remember. It's a weird one. But I'm a judge. I'm a judge of the Brits.
Oh, okay.
I usually vote for somebody very weird that nobody else will. I wanted London Grammar to win something.
Yeah.
I don't know why they didn't.
They didn't. I wanted Disclosure to win as well.
Well, I couldn't believe they didn't.
I can't believe that. I feel like they've soundtracked like everything. I feel like every show on Radio 1 plays them.
I think probably in about 10 years' time they'll be recognised by.
They're just 10 years. Hang on in there, guys.
Yeah, sort of. Your first show on Radio 1.
I was trying to think about this. I can't really remember it. Basically, Annie Mac I met at Glastonbury one year. It hit it off immediately, and I've got I should show you these pictures, they're amazing. Of me and Annie at Glastonbury in some tent with like rave horns round our necks, and I look about 11 years old,
right.
As does Annie. I'd moved to London by then, and then I ran into her in a pub, and she was like, oh, you know what, I need someone to come on my show and come on the radio to sort of do this thing every week telling us what's cool, like what music we should listen to, what band we should go to. So I went in and I started doing that on Sunday nights. And I can't remember doing my first show, but I can definitely remember leaving. I mean, I remember driving through London and crossing over Battersea Bridge. I can remember crying on that bridge in the cab, being like, having like this big hysterical moment, but I can't actually remember being
hysterical moment.
Yeah, like a good moment, but I can't remember.
I remember after my first show on the radio, which was also a Sunday night, driving in my car, which was something very a heap of nothing, you know.
Yeah.
And it broke down. I was so stressed out about doing this first show live, and I was scared to bits, you know. And then being stuck in this garage for hours and hours before I got home. And a friend of mine just holding this car, some bit of the car together, just so we could get home.
Holding
That's
it together.
what you remember about.
Do you remember doing the show though? Do you remember?
Yeah, you know what I did? This was in the days of vinyl, and I hadn't really learnt how to work the desk at all. So me and the producer did it between us. So there's this record just going round and round. I thought, well, I'll do something useful. I'll just press the stop button. And it was the record that was being broadcast live. And so it didn't just stop, it just went very slowly. And everyone was going, oh my God, what's happened? And there was this famous 8 seconds of dead air, which felt like 8 years.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's it, I've blown it then. But they did forgive me.
Yeah, of course. Well, obviously,
I had a lot to learn. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you were growing up? Who did you idolise? What did you think you were going to be?
The first people I remember idolising are Prince, Michael Jackson, Jarvis Cocker, and Liam and Noel Gallagher. They were the people that I had on my wall and I was obsessed with. And then I always listened to Radio 1. I thought that no one else listened to John Peel. I thought that was just me, because no one at my school talked about John Peel, so I thought I'd discovered him or something. I thought this is like...
Well, you did then.
It was just
in
me.
a way, you
I
did.
thought it's just me that's into this guy. There was one of my other friends, a girl I went to school with, and we were the only ones who'd listen to him. And then I used to listen to Sarah Cox every morning.
Did you at any point think, I'd love to do that?
I always did, actually, as a kid. I always thought that I didn't have any other option in my brain. I never said this because it might be embarrassing, but I feel like I can tell you, Annie. I used to write fake stories about myself. So I'd write as if I was like the Sun. I'd write, Nick Grimshaw, Radio 1 DJ, went out with Oasis and they went to see Prince, and I'd write these fake stories that my mum would be like, that's insane.
In a way, it isn't. Do you know there's a word for this, which is called visualization?
Yes.
Apparently, if you literally visualize yourself in that situation you want to be, you will make it happen. Very interesting. So it's not something to feel embarrassed or ashamed about. Actually, that's probably what got you here then.
Yeah.
Because you imagine yourself in it already. No doubt.
There was no other option. Like, that's just what I wanted to do. And I was always quite precise. It was always, I never said, I want to work in radio or I want to be a DJ. I was always like, I want to do the Radio and Breakfast Show.
Right.
And I never really listened to anything else. I only really listened to Radio 1. I didn't really go through any other stations.
Yeah, you were growing up in Manchester, weren't you?
Yeah.
So you had other radio stations there. There were other options.
Yeah.
Other than Radio 1. So,
yeah. I always thought Radio 1 was just like the most real. And it always felt like there was people on and not robots.
Right. Well, I guess that's true.
Yeah.
I'd like to think so.
We're people, me and Annie.
Right.
My first job, because it's quite hard to get into radio, especially Manchester. I think it's tough, maybe not as hard now, but when I was doing it when I was like 15, 16, it was kind of...
Were you?
Yeah,
what
that's
were
what
you
I wanted
doing
to
when
do.
you were 15?
Well, I was writing to radio stations, and my dad and everyone around me was just like, that's not a real job. Like, you can't do that. That's like saying you want to be a footballer or you want to be an astronaut.
Really?
And I can really remember this happening. I can remember my sister saying one day, like, we were in the dining room at Mum and Dad's house, and I was about 15 or whatever. And I was like, but my dad says it's like being an astronaut or being a footballer. And she was like, well, people are astronauts and like people are footballers, so you might as well just, go and do it. But it was quite hard to do it because there's not as many opportunities as there are in London for radio stations or record labels or anything like that. But I got work experience at a pluggers company.
Plugging means you're the people that are trying to get these tunes played on the radio. That's what the job is. I mean, promotion.
Yeah.
So just in case anyone wonders what being a plugger is, I'm sure everybody knows now anyway.
So we did like regional radio and we'd send you stuff. I used to send you post.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, and I'd like write Annie Nightingale Radio 1 on the envelopes and Joe Wiley.
You never put a note saying hi. It's
I know, but I was
Grimmy.
always too scared. I was always so scared because he'd write, names from everyone all across the country, regional radio. And if you got to write like the Radio 1 DJs' names, that was always exciting. You'd always write them a bit better. You'd always write like Annie Nightingale nicer, or Joe Wiley. You'd write nicer.
Well, that's very. I should have kept them all.
Should have kept them. Love letters.
Framed them all and stuff. So
that was
this
the
is
first
actually
thing I
very
did.
good advice to anyone who's listening who fancies being at Radio 1. So this is really visualise it and get a job early on.
BBC Radio 1, Annie Nightingale.
Just one other thing that you told me once about your brother, who I must meet because he and I have the same birthday.
Yes,
it was April
1st. Yeah.
And he apparently said, it's me that's made you cool.
Yeah.
Because he's older than you and you listen to all his favourite records. Is that right?
Yeah, my brother was a big, and still is big, like Dan said, and he always, used to go to Hacienda and go to all these like Manchester raves and stuff, and he's got me into house music. I think that's why I like house music and proper 80s New York hip-hop is like the music that I'll always love and always... So he always says whenever I do, like, if I go to the Brits, if I'm lucky enough to go and do something exciting through my job, he's always like, I should have been there. I'm the one that made you cool. It wasn't for me.
So this is the kind of Gallagher influence. So do you actually ever take him out?
Yeah, all the time. I'm going out with him tonight, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you
all the
just
time.
say to him, April the 1st, let's see what we can come up with this year. I think I should meet him on
You
our
have to. You should do
birthday.
an April Fool's show.
Well, an April Fool, I think it's on a Tuesday this year.
Oh,
but
that won't work.
I want a party with a nucleus of people whose birthdays April the 1st. Chris Evans is one.
Really?
Yeah. Philip Schofield.
Let's get this party. So my brother,
Your brother,
Philip Schofield,
that's
Chris
the
Evans.
beginning. Yeah.
Big party.
Yeah, that's, and we will out-ego each. Anyway, lovely seeing it, as always.
Lovely to see you. See you later. Thank you, Annie.
Annie Nightingale, BBC Radio 1.